we still remind ourselves we're not worthy of doing this. We are only to be available to be used by God to tell this story.
How do you feel about this phenomenon that has been going bigger and bigger in every season?
Yeah, it has been extraordinary to watch. When we first did season 1 and we crowdfunded it. So we were using investment and money from people just for 8 episodes. And we were very, very low budget and filming in a very, very small town in the middle of Texas. And now that season 5 is in theaters all over the world and in people's languages in these other countries. It is so beautiful to see. I mean, this season takes place during Holy Week. Some of the most famous moments, even for people who aren't traditional Christians or who don't go to church regularly, know a lot of these stories. The turning of the tables in the temple, the Last Supper, Judas's betrayal, Jesus' entry into Jerusalem with all the palm branches. There are so many big moments that demand big production. I think people should see this on the big screen because this is our biggest season yet. But also seeing it just have impact all over the world has been truly beautiful to watch, especially in South America. We've seen from very early on our Spanish-speaking audience, both in the States and in countries like Mexico, have really embraced the show. And so seeing it grow and seeing it put out in theaters like this, even though it's a television show, and seeing the response, been overwhelming.
And talking about the response, we know that every season is getting love and affection from everybody. So how do you feel about it in a personal way?
One of the things that I love about people from South America is they're very expressive. They're very passionate. Season 5 is a very passionate season. It's very intense. From the first episode, we see every one of the emotions of Jesus, all of the human emotions that anyone can express are all in this season. And so I love when I see people on social media having watched episodes of The Chosen, and many times they're crying because it's been impacting them so personally. And that's my favorite thing. I don't really care as much about the box office numbers and seeing the success of it. I love hearing from people directly when they tell me that the show has changed their lives in some way or impacted them in some way.
I heard Jonathan Rumi the other day saying that one day he just stopped the production because he felt unworthy of playing Jesus. So I wanted to hear that particular moment of the show, but in your perspective, of course.
Yes, in season 1, we had him saying words from scripture. We had him preaching with authority, and Jonathan is not Jesus. He doesn't have God's authority, and he was struggling, and I didn't know why, and I wasn't really paying close attention, and he just grabbed me and he said, "I need you to understand how difficult this is for me." And I said, "Oh, okay, what do you mean?" And he said, "I don't," and he started to get emotional. And he said, "I don't feel worthy saying these words." And I just said, "Oh, goodness, welcome to the team. None of us are worthy to be doing this. I'm not worthy to be delivering the Bible and these characters in this show to the world like this." So we need to embrace that. We need to lean into that, lean into this unworthiness and recognize that because we're unworthy, we need God's help. We need to be humble. We need to be surrendered. And I think that posture is very important for a show like this, for me to recognize I'm not God. Jonathan isn't Jesus. The Chosen isn't actually the Bible. We're flawed people who are trying to deliver a perfect story. And so that's okay. We still remind ourselves we're not worthy of doing this. We are only to be available to be used by God to tell this story.
Could you explain a little this particular story of your job is to just bring to the table the fish and the bread, right?
Back in 2017, a movie that I made was a complete failure at the box office. And I felt awful about it. And I wondered if I would never make another movie again or TV show. And someone reminded me, it's not your job to feed the 5,000. Your job is to provide the loaves and fish. And so the story in the Gospels, when Jesus fed 5,000 people, he did it with 5 loaves and 2 fish that were given to him by a young boy. And so the name of our company is 5 and 2 Studios. And I remind myself and our team almost every day, our job is to provide 5 loaves and 2 fish. We want to make the best loaves and 2 fish that we can. And that means that we're going to come up with a great recipe. That means we need to do it well. We need to make sure that we're providing great and healthy loaves and fish so that if God chooses to multiply them and feed many people with them, in our case, millions of people around the world, that's up to him. But each day we need to start new. And when we deliver those 5 loaves and 2 fish, in this case, it's season 5. And If God chooses to have it be successful, if they love watching it, then that's great. But we can't be focused on that. We have to be focused each day on what we can do and what we're responsible for.
I believe it's a great responsibility to write these characters in order to go forward in the story and to actually know what are they doing. So how did you start writing this particular season, the Judas history?
So when we sit down to write each season, we start with stories and people from the Bible. In this case, Judas's betrayal. And we know that it happens during Holy Week. And just like every other story from Holy Week, it's just very important to try to accurately portray not only what happened in the Bible, but what might have happened in between the moments in the Bible that we know. And so we take it very seriously to try to do justice to who Judas might have been and who Jesus is, of course, and how that relationship might have been. And so we take the stories from the Bible, we think of historical context, cultural context, like the Jewish people, and then yes, some humanity, in that we think of our own humanity. We recognize that these people 2,000 years ago were human beings. And we put the saints up on statues and stained glass windows, and then the enemies of Jesus, or the people who betrayed him like Judas, we see them as these villains, and we try to oftentimes portray them as evil and almost like caricatures. Now, we do agree that Judas did something evil, but he was a human being. He didn't think that what he was doing was evil, and so we try to portray his humanity in this, and I think that that's very important, because I think it's important for the audience and the viewer to know that they could be Judas if they had made certain decisions, and that all of us human beings have good and bad in us. And I think that's what we need to try to remember.